Hey, I'm about to say today I'd like to talk about the Q&A that they released, Fateless released. It's Simon and Juho over there. Juho is the a QA person. She's kind of like the head of QA from what it sounds like. And yeah, today I want to talk about just my general vibe of this, how I felt about it, kind of react to it a little bit, cheap React content, but also, add something to questions that maybe these guys are kind of like, neck deep in the coding. And so there's some stuff I don't want to say they gloss over, but stuff that prerequisite knowledge that might help you digest this stuff better. So I kind of want to like go over that stuff too. So I have a few questions here I want to go over. But first things first, I want to say you guys are so much better at asking questions than I am. I was reading your guys' questions. I was like, man, this is such higher quality questions than what I asked for, right? Like I asked for a cheeky leak with let's go to the ones I asked, right? They're at the very end. I asked for a cheeky leak. I asked, what's this 8%? It turned out just to be, a number here. The gap is just administrative, and then like the feedback, obviously it generated a good like back and forth, but I think the question overall is pretty low quality. So I'm glad you guys asked way better questions than I did, because I actually love this video a lot. And so first things first, I want to talk to actually kudos to Simon for like handling this very well. I mean, it's very clear. I think there were times where there have a bit of pain points of being like, yeah, it's not going to be beta, it's probably not going to be in early access. And I think he's doing well with coming to terms with it is his first game. It's tough, right? Right. It's the idea of you'll have these great ideas, but they don't serve the story, right? So you'll have this great scene, but it doesn't advance the plot, right? And it doesn't advance a character's like arc, right? It doesn't advance it doesn't like tell you more about that character. And I think, we're seeing Fateless starting to do that, where it's like, hey, yeah, this is a great idea. I would love to implement it. It's not in the cards, right? And I think that's a real sign of maturity of the company in general, the ability to say, yeah, we had these great ideas and you go cut them. Like same thing with the tower, same thing with the PvP question that gets asked, right? It's like, why is it not included? Well, it's, it doesn't really serve the beta purpose, right? The beta, it's a test. They even said it's a beta test, right? And there's certain things they want to test with it, and that's outside the scope of the current test. And I think it shows a lot of maturity. It shows a lot of like them understanding the gravity of making their first game, right? Yeah, I can't applaud them more, right? I'm very, very happy with that. Anyway, first things first, we will move on. I want to just point out Crone here, right? Crone is the guy who made the website that I used when I first did the kit reviews. He's very, very smart, very, very good with back end stuff. I'm not surprised he asks great questions, right? So he says, you can have backups like regular checkpointing, right? This is absolutely a great question here, right? It's just we will have backup up to a day, right? If something catastrophic happens. So it's cool. Right? It's reassuring to know that, that they're, oops, didn't mean to play it, that they're accounting for that, right? It's very, very good. The next thing I want to talk about is there is a question about spaghetti code. Yeah, they're not gonna have spaghetti code right now. Like they're just not going to. They could, right? Of course, but like spaghetti code happens after years of implementation. They just refactored their code for a backend, right? When you refactor your code, you clean it up, you make it less spaghetti, right? They kind of just did a ground up thing. They're not going to have spaghetti code right now, right? And I think someone kind of covers it. You get spaghetti code when you bolt on stuff, right? You don't have proper functions to call stuff. They plan to have an API, right? And I think that's like, part of this redoing this is to, clean it up a little bit. They can't really have spaghetti code. This is a question I want to ask in like 2 years. Like, hey, how's your code base looking? Right? You're still clean cut, right? You're still looking good. But I think all the refactoring they've recently done, is whenever you refactor code, whenever you remake code, it's like anti-spaghetti, right? It's like you're making it very optimal, especially too when they're optimizing it for mobile, right? And for stuff, you're not going to have spaghetti code, right? Spaghetti code is, just the progress they're making makes me feel like they don't have spaghetti code. I hope they keep it that way, right? And I think they're very good at asking questions about the way they're supposed to do stuff. So, like I said, let's ask this question in like 2 years, right? I think we come back to that in 2 years. So the next one I have here, and these are all phenomenal questions, and a lot of these questions that I'm skipping over, I simply don't know the what's the word? I don't have anything to speak about because it's such a good question. I don't have any like intuition about it. So like really props off to you guys. I can't say that enough, right? Props off to or hats off to you guys. Next we have another question from Crone, right? And he's saying about hackers. And so for hackers, I know something about this, right? You want to keep and Juho did a phenomenal way of doing this. You want to keep a fog of war, right? You don't want to let hackers know how they were caught, right? And so that's why like fan waves happen and stuff like that. It's the idea of you don't want to let people know like how they got caught. So that's why like they'll know you're a hacker for a long time and you'll just play your game, and then 6 months later you're banned for hacking or for whatever, for cheating. The reason they do that is because they don't want you to know why you got caught, right? And it's just keep that fog of war up. So you're like Crone, like this is a cool question. No, they can't answer this, right? Because it'll give the cheaters and hackers a heads up, right? But yeah, it was a little concerning to hear that they had client side checkups. It was really funny that when people were cheating at Heroes, right? They were just using their like in-game. I imagine like they have like a debug menu that you just like pull in heroes and stuff. That's so funny. That's so funny. Anyway, how long did they last for? I was definitely like with the odd one gaming here. This question is: could we leave it open till early access? I was like, yeah, do it, right? Run it. But I've been convinced otherwise. 3-week spurts sound fine enough, right? And that's cool, right? It's one of those things where it's like, do I want to give up a 4-month beta account? I have no problem at all. I have absolutely no attachment. I use cold hard logic to make my decisions, right? It'd be fun to do another restart and be more efficient with the restart, right? But I've done speed running, right? I do roguelikes. I'm used to the reset. I view gotchas as big roguelikes. So doing a restart for me is not that big of a deal at all, right? But to the average player, I totally get getting invested to your account. I've talked to a lot of you guys. You guys get invested, and that's good. That's the point of the game, right? And so I think having these 3-week spurts that they're talking about, and it's not pinned down yet, right? The 3-week spurt thing, but I think that's a good idea. So, as I like, they're open to have multiple. So it might be like, maybe it's like 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off, right? Maybe it's like, I think that we're going to get our fill of Godforge. It's not going to be this drought we've had. It's been half a year plus since the alpha, man. I'm hungry for Godforge too, right? I'm so hungry. I've been making content and I'm just like, I would love to make content while like clicking on the menu, right? I have one video with me clicking through menus while playing the game. And that is when I did during Alpha 2 on my very first video. I have a Divinity video, right? And that is the only video on my channel where I'm actually playing the game. All my other videos are not playing the game at all. It's just been this kind of content, right? Just like going through and digesting, giving my thoughts on this stuff, right? But the reason I made this video, first off, I think a lot of people aren't surprised. This is a question that I was happy was asked. I was happy it was accepted, and I'm happy that they talked about it, right? So it seems like to me they are overhauling initiative, and they're using a new word called faith, right? Which is great. I think faith is a great name for it, right? You're a bunch of gods and like god adjacent characters, and you're building a divinity through faith rather than through initiative. Initiative confused me for speed. When I first saw the initiative stat, I thought it was just, they just renamed speed. But then I saw the speed stat and I was like, what is initiative then? So let's talk about this for a second. Let's break this down for just a moment, right? And this is the main reason. Yeah, this is probably the main reason I got pinged about this. Like, Stage, watch this video, right? They're talking about Divinity. And so I think they are trying to make faith, right, initiative, a equal to speed. And this is what I made my first video on this because it failed, right? I will tell you this right now. Initiative in the alphas is like not even better than like attack. It's not even better than like resistance. It is one of the worst stats to build, in my humble opinion. And so I think initiative failed spectacularly. Not the ultimate system. I think the ultimate system is phenomenal, right? I think that's one of the best selling points of the game. And I'm very excited for it. But I think that's the reason that initiative hurts is because building initiative doesn't like impact when you can use your ultimate sufficiently. So it seems like they are changing how Divinity is gained, right? Also too, right? So to speak into this, I want to see ultimates that get cast like every other turn, and like with a little bit of initiative, right? With a little bit of faith, right? And they're not impactful, right? They're these small little pokes, right? They're these small little like, oh hey, do one turn attack down, right? Even on legendaries, right? One turn attack down, but you get it so often, right? And then I want there to be middle of the road ultimates. Most of the ultimates we see now, I don't think of any ultimate that is really that level of ultimate. There's maybe one or two, right? Maybe like a shield maiden ultimate, like a common ultimate. But most ultimates fall into a similar power range. I don't think we really have this doomsday level ultimate yet, where it's like, I press this button and I have a massive tempo swing, or I just nuke, right? And I don't think that these Doomsday ultimates should be just big nukes, right? I think that's a mistake. I think that these Doomsday ultimates should be kind of what like Izanami's going for, where it's this AoE speed down, cut your divinity, right? This big tempo swinging type thing, where it's like, oh, you took too long to build your ultimate, or you took too long to finish the fight. I built my ultimate in that time, and you now have to deal with these like debilitating effects, right? So that's like a disruptor example. And like, I think a bruiser example is exactly actually Dracula. I think Dracula's ultimate kind of is a doomsday ultimate in that way. And I'm very happy with it. Is this idea of, oh, the battle went too long. My bleeds have been spread. My domain is here. It's this brawler getting like slow value, grinding value out. And hey, now I just get a big nuke, right? I think that's a good brawler space to do a lot of damage, actually. But I think that Slayers, I actually think one of the best ultimates, bang for your buck, is actually Shinigami's ultimate. This ability to just do this cheeky hit with, was it Curse and Drain? Every other turn. It feels like every third turn, I would say, with him. It feels really good, right? And I think that's a good place for Slayers, actually, to do like a cheeky single target hit. I'm very happy to hear this because initiative and faith have to be ridiculously strong to contend with speed. That means like you need to swing for the fences with these ultimates or ultimate generations, right? Like, it's tough. It's very tough. Speed is a multiplicative stat, not only because it multiplies against your damage, right, which is already heavily multiplied against, so it's a very good damage multiplier. It's also a cooldown multiplier. It makes your cooldown come back faster. And so it is the most potent stat, right? It will give you more damage over the fight, and it'll give you more cooldown reduction. And on top of just getting the initiative, like going first is very important to these games. That's the most important thing. Is when we played the alpha, the base thing was like, what's the speed of everything? So we can always go faster, right? Okay, Fafnir's, was it 210? Then we need to be going like, if we can't hit 210, we need to be 190 so we don't get lapped by him, right? Eventually, right? Or we need to be, whatever value that is, we never get laughed by him. And so I think they have their work cut out for this, right? And this is something I'll be providing a ton of feedback for, right? I'm not super great at this technical stuff. Like I know it, right? I've coded games and stuff, but I'm much better at design than I am the technical aspect of stuff. So that's why this was a phenomenal video for me personally. And I'm very happy with with the answers from Simon and the answers from Juho, right? Juho seems very, very knowledgeable in this stuff too. So I'm really happy he could, take some time away from queuing. I'm sure he's immensely busy, right? They just moved to back end. I'm sure they're just testing a ton of stuff. And he's like kind of the head managing everyone, right? And thanks to you guys, man. You guys asked great questions. If all questions were my quality of questions, this would have been an awful video. My question was awful. But you guys asked the phenomenal questions. We really got to learn more about it, right? And then also, Fateless doing a great job as well. I've been so revigorated to make content like that. I just want to talk about the game more. I'm kind of back to like that alpha 2 where I'm like, I just want to talk about Godforge. So here we are talking about Godforge. Leave your comments below. Let me know how you guys think about this. What questions were you happy with? What are there any concerns? I didn't see any concerns at this at all. I'm very, very happy with the answers, but I'd like to know your guys' thoughts as well. You guys can make fun of me for my like stinky question too. Let's go back to my stinky question so you can see it. Dude, we literally went through the entire video and I was like, man, these are like banging questions. And then we get to mine. I'm just like, oh, my questions suck. Like my questions are so baby. Why did they save it for the end, man? We had ask these questions first when it's not embarrassing. Now it's embarrassing that you got to solve the good questions from like Crone and others. And I'm really self-conscious about this, guys. Very, very self-conscious about this. I feel like I wasted their time because my question was so bad. Anyway, that's enough for me. That's enough ranting. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye.